The subject of today's video is a serious one, but it's one that I really wanted to talk to you a little bit about because, first of all, it's very personal to me right now. Um, in ways I'll explain to you why in a minute. But the idea that comes to us a lot of times. We have things happen to us, and we're thinking, why are these things happening to me? And sometimes they happen in such a way that it comes into our minds. Do we have a curse? Is somebody cursed us, or do we have a hex on us, or something? Particularly people that work in the deal in magic and magical powers and spells and things. You can't help but to have it come into your mind from time to time. The video is personal to me in many ways because it's about something that's happened to my husband and I don't want to go into too much detail, and I really don't. I want to say the only reason I'm sharing this is because I think we can all learn not just from what I have to say about the possibility of a curse or a hex or etc., but also what happened to us happens to people all the time. This kind of thing happens to people all the time, and take it as a warning, if you will. What happened to us, without going into too much detail, is I think I've already shared with you that our income is basically Social Security. We're senior citizens and we receive a check every month. And the way Social Security is paid for everyone is by direct deposit only. The only way you can get it is by having a bank account, and it goes directly into your bank account on a certain day, one time a month. The day is the same every month of the year. So we know always when we get up on whatever day each month what day we're going to have money when we get up in the morning. So we get paid one time a month, and of course, if that's your only income for the month, basically, that's when you then may pay all your bills. All the debts that are owed to you, that you owe, come out of that money for your month. Well, what happened to us when we got up on the day? In our case, it was Wednesday. And I have to say my husband was a little excited about it because this year, this calendar year, this year, 2022, we were due to get a raise in our little bit of a raise, a little tiny bit of an increase in our payment. The rate went up, I guess, that we got. And he was excited to see it. We're dealing in such a small amount of money. It was perhaps a bigger deal than it should have been to him. But he was excited to see it. He got up in the morning and he poured himself some tea and he opened his phone and got into the bank to see that a deposit had been made during the night into our account. And about 5 minutes, within 5 minutes of it being deposited into our account was emptied. By what? By what? We had no balance. We had a zero balance in the account. We knew right away that there was something wrong because somebody had hacked into our account or whatever. We've had experiences in the past where people have used credit cards. I think we all have had that, where you're maybe just your debit card or whatever, it could be a credit card, where you get notified that there's suspicious activity on your account, and they usually cancel your account, and they usually, for us at least, we get a new card and they refund the money and they investigate the fraud. Okay. Well, in this case, since it was digital fraud rather than credit fraud or something like that, it was not resolved immediately. It had to go into a claim thing, and they said it could very well be beginning of February, sometime before we will see any refund of our money. In the meantime, we have a sizable automatic shipment that comes to us from a company, an internet company, where we get supplies for our animals, for our pets. Flea protection is one that we get which is we get usually a 3-month supply at a time. It's a pretty expensive purchase, but it only happens once every 3 months or whatever. We had just received it the week prior to this, and when we were supposed to. But for some reason, the day that we have the bank fraud, they took out another auto ship payment. They charged another auto ship to our account, and they were going to then ship the second box of this flea prevention medication to us, which was a sizable deduction from our account. So of course you can imagine what happened is, of course, it overdrew our account, and we started to proceed to accrue overdrawn charges and who knows what. And we just thought, oh, what is going to happen? We were in a nightmare situation, trying to think how many things come out automatically of our account every month. Just small things, but they add up. Whether it's for Netflix or whether it's for, my Zoom account or just automatic things like that. What happens every month to your account? Are they going to start bouncing left and right, being overcharged, adding up charges? I had some outstanding checks. Usually, if there's a couple of people that pay for, we have services with a few people that they weekly or bi-weekly services, which they usually hold the checks until the end of the month and then cash them. Those were going to be coming in and bouncing, and it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. My husband was really upset about it, of course, and I was upset about it, of course, and trying to figure out, and he thought he should go to the bank. He had to go to the bank. He was in a panic, trying to go to the bank quickly, and he got a really terrific nosebleed before he could leave the house, which happens to him. He's a bleeder. I call him a bleeder. He bleeds easily, and it takes a long time for his blood to clot. And the blood was everywhere, and he was nervous, and he was upset. And the more upset he was, because he wanted to get to the bank, the more his nose bled. And it was horrible. And we're sitting there with each other, experiencing left and right all this stuff that was going on in our life. And the first thing he utters is, do we have a curse on us? Is there a hex on us? Is there a hex on us? Are we being cursed? This comes up, and I'm explaining this to you and sharing our personal, yet again, too much of our personal stuff with you, which just could not be that interesting. But I'm sharing it because this happens to us all the time. I know this happens to you all the time. I mean, by us, I mean all of us. We are struck by certain times. It seems like for right now, things are just, their energies around me are so negative, and I'm getting all these negative things attacking me all the time. I feel like I'm under attack by negative things. Am I cursed? And if I'm cursed, what should I do about it? And that's the topic of today's video. Okay. So the first thing we have to talk about is, are we really cursed? And there are generally 3 things that we must be able to answer yes to decide if we're really being cursed. If this is a curse or is this a hex? Can we answer yes to the following questions? Okay. The first question that we're going to ask is there somebody out there, anybody in our lives that we have offended in such a way, either of us have offended in such a way that that they would want to put a curse or a hex on us? Because if there's no intent, there would be no curse or hex, right? And we're thinking about it, and we're thinking, we haven't really even been in that much contact with a lot of people in the last, 2 years. I don't think we've really angered anybody. Have we really angered anybody? We don't have that kind of intimate relationships with people, and we certainly would think if it was a big thing, we would remember it. Okay, but secondly, and maybe more important than the first one, is if that person that is anger have some kind of grudge against us, is that person who knows enough about magic or knows enough about witchcraft and to be able to put a curse or hex on us, or attempt to put a curse or hex on us. And even more important for me, I would have to say, does that person have the magical ability and skill to do so? Now, I teach all the time on my channel here ways that you can do things, and ways you can do bindings, ways you can do, spell work. I teach spells all the time and show you different things. And I always talk about intention. And I'm always talking about raising the power of your intention, raising that. And that is something that takes practice, friends. It takes practice. You can't just open a book, say gibberish, word a couple words, and put out a couple of crystals and light a candle, and poof, you're going to have magic happen. If somebody's going to want to affect, to do a curse or a hex strong enough that is going to alter the energies that surround my husband or myself, that's one powerful witch. That's one practiced witch. That's one powerful practiced witch who has the desire to cause us harm. Do you get that? Do you get that? It's not enough to just wish us ill, but to be able to cause it to happen, that takes some power, that takes some skill. It's not just the knowledge, it takes practice, it takes skill. Okay? A lot of us are under the impression, a lot of people are under the impression that we just sit around. I've used this before, like witches, we don't sit up in trees and just put curses and hexes on people that happen to pass by underneath the tree. We don't have that ability to do that. This isn't bewitched. It's not bewitched. We don't just twitch our nose and something happens to somebody. There's a lot of skill and knowledge and craft that goes into the craft of spell work. Okay. So finally I have to say, the first two I don't think so, and number 3, the most important is a hex or curse the only possible explanation for what is happening to you? Well, for heaven's sakes, we know this happens all the time. These kind of things happen all the time. People have maybe not taking somebody's social security. Now, I have to say, this is very disturbing to me because it's a little bit more serious to me than it is somebody just hacking and pretending to use my credit card, getting hold of my credit card number. These people, the money went into the bank. The only way I can get the check is from the bank. I have to get it from my bank, and the bank is supposed to be the people that hold my money securely. And this is a check that was issued by the federal government, and I find it so hard to believe that the bank does not have the security. I'm really worried about this. They don't have the security to keep my money safe. This is Bank of America, people. This is not like, some little hokey operation. This is a big institution. Okay. Now, fortunately, we found out today that they not only know where the money, who took it, how it was taken, but they know who took it, through what bank. They're working with the bank. They know who the person is, and they are going to work together. We found out today to prosecute the person. They're going to be prosecuted for what they did. They're going to be punished. Because you better believe it, if they're doing it to us, they're doing it to other people. Social Security is, people that are on Social Security have been victims of crime since induction of Social Security. This is why it's all through direct deposit. It used to be people who were on Social Security got their checks mailed to them, and they were getting stolen out of the mailbox. And even worse yet, the people that were recipients were getting murdered, and people were using their identity to get their checks. This was happening a lot. So the only way to get it is through a direct deposit. And this is why it was so alarming to us. Okay, so it's something that's very serious, but it could happen. Okay, it can happen. Also about the automatic shipment, those things happen. The nosebleeds, those happen. The fact that they all happen at once, it happened at the same time. I'm a believer, negative attracts negative, positive attracts positive. Energies attract. So we're trying really hard to put ourselves into a positive surrounding as much as we can. To try to stay positive, it's not easy. It's very depressing. In the meantime, it's not going to happen. At least we're hoping to get it situated by the end of this week, but it might not be till next week sometime. That's a long time to go without any money. And a long time to go having to put off all your the people that you owe money to, and your creditors, and it's stressful. I want to say it is very stressful. But it's not the only explanation. It did not come about because of a curse or a hex. Enough said. it doesn't matter so much, because that's really not what the video is about today. It inspires the video. The video is about, if you do have a curse or a hex placed upon you, what can you do about it, number one? And number two, how can you prevent it from happening in the future? That would what we want to say, okay? So that's what this video today is about. Okay, first of all, we're talking about, let's start about semantics. We're going to say, first of all, I'm saying hex, I'm saying a curse. Are they the same thing? To some people, they're the same, but to me, they're not the same, really. Just for the purpose of interest, perhaps, because I don't... Louis, get out of the trash. Louis keeps wanting in my little trash can here. You leave it. Louis, leave it. For my own practice, I find a difference between the word hex and curse, okay? Hex is just general bad luck, and I would say that hexing is probably something that if I did have something on me at this time causing these things to happen, it would more likely be a hex than a curse, because hex is generally bad luck. It's just general bad luck. It wears off after a while. It usually has some kind of a time limit. It's only good for a certain while. If you were to put a hex on somebody, it wouldn't last forever. But it's really not that specific. There's not a lot of control. And the hex is something that maybe is performed by somebody who doesn't have the ability to do an actual curse. I don't know. Doing an actual curse on somebody, I don't even know if I know anybody who has that ability. But a hex is just general wishing somebody or sending harm to somebody in a general fashion without control over it. Which is another reason I don't really like it. It's not good magic. It's not good practice, because if you don't, the fact that you don't have control over it in the first place, it can come back at you really quickly. You're putting negative energy out there. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it as a practice. A curse in what I would say then about a curse is something that is long-standing. It's long-lasting. It can last your lifetime. It can last your generations. To understand what a curse is, think about something like, the movie, good one is Practical Magic, one of our favorite movies. As Butchers, we love it because we all love the house, right? But there was a curse put on the family, these women, their family, that any person that they fell in love with, that person would die. That was the whole premise of the movie, and that was through generations. 3 generations that curse lasted, and so it had very long-lasting effects. Okay, and it could be permanent. It could be permanent. But again, that's movies. I don't know anybody who's had that happen to them. But, it's possible. I imagine it's possible. Okay, so let's imagine for a minute that we do have a hex recurse, let's say a hex, put on us, or we think we think we can answer all those questions with a yes. We can think there is somebody who does wish us ill. We think it's a witch, somebody who has probably the power to do it. And I can't think of any other reason these things are happening. I think it's very much tied to that person. What do we do about it? Okay, is there anything we can do about it? Well, there are a few things that we can do. I think one of the most common kind of magic that is done for that kind of a spell is what they call a return to sender spell of some kind. It usually involves a mirror, where whatever ill will is wished upon me is reflected back to the person sending it. And that's a good kind of using a mirror for magic, for a return to sender spell. You don't specifically have to have the name of the person. It helps, but you don't have to. It can be just a general, you can try it, return to sender spell, where you take a mirror and you consecrate it in a certain way, and you put your intention into the mirror in a certain way, and put your protection up, and because it's for that person. And there's a lot of return to sender spells on the internet you can find, also, and in books. Also, I think I might have touched on a few on some of my old videos. I'd have to check that out and see. I'm not sure. Another way is to set a trap, something that you would be familiar with if you watch my old videos. It's sort of the idea of a witch's jar, where you're going to attract the person's malice into a jar or a box in some way, and then which would contain mirror or broken mirrors sometimes, and then that would be reflected back to the person. That would be specific instead of a witch's jar, which is very generally just for general baneful energies coming towards me. This was a specific person. And very often you can also use a poppet, which we have used. You've seen me in the past use poppets several times, where we can actually, how we tag the poppet to bind a person. We can tag a person and use that as a decoy. We can tag ourselves and use it as a decoy in a way that, and put it away from us where we can then take it off of our property. It's like us, it's tagged as us, and the energy is attracted to that poppet, but it is away from us. So it's not bringing it into our property. Okay. So there's two kind of ways that we can just generally use talismans of some kind to magic sometime to either deflect the magic away, the ill will away from us, or to trap it in a location away from us and keep it there. So that's a general kind of a protection. There's other things you can do if you think you have this on you to make sure you're cleansed of it. You can do several things. You can cleanse yourself. There's you can use salt, water. You can use black salt, which is black salt. You can cleanse with that. You can cleanse with cascarilla powder. I've showed you that in the past. You can use hyssop. Hyssop is a good one. I have hyssop soap. I make hyssop soap. You can bathe yourself with that. You can just make a spray out of hyssop, either as a wash to wash yourself with, or you can to pour over your body, or you can, we tend to make it, I like to put it in a spray bottle, a spray containing with hyssop, and spray myself with it, we use that for cleansing a lot of times. You can take something like a selenite wand. Here I have a couple here on my table. The one, a selenite wand. This was just gifted to me recently by a friend, which you can, you can ritually cleanse yourself of this. It's a sweeping away motion all over your body to rid yourself of whatever might be clinging to you from this hex. You can also use just simple sage, like we would cleanse an area with sage or anything like that. But in this case, I would use a feather with it, and probably I would get somebody to help me. And for my case with my husband and I, we would do each other. We would cleanse each other with the selenite wand. I would do that too. To go head to toe, cleansing down the arms, down the trunk, down the legs to the ground, and turn and do the back the same way. Take it clear down the back. Okay. Those are really good ways to rid yourself of any bad juju, bad energies that are clinging to you. I also have found, I have two things. One thing I came upon in looking around to see what I could find out for you to add to this video. And I came across a candle spell, which, I love candle spells so much. But this, I have to say, was new to me. I have never done this before. I'm not going to set up the spell here because, like I said, I don't believe I'm under a hex or curse. But I want to show you what you need, the most simple things to do it. And you can do this. Anybody can do this. And all you need basically is a candle. A black candle of some kind is best. Black is always good to send to banish. And some water. You need some water. If you have water, specific waters, I would definitely use something like that. Like we have collected waters that I've showed you in my cupboard. I have rainwater, and I have storm water, and I have water from a lake, and water from the ocean, and water from different places, I would use, and also just regular consecrated water that you might use for ritual. You could maybe use something like that. I think I would tend to use rainwater, because rainwater, for me and my husband, it is something that is so, so precious to us because we have so little of it. And we collect it always, when it rains, we have a special jar we keep outside that has some quartz in the bottom of the jar. And we always are collecting the rain. And then we keep that jar out. We make sure the jar is out when there's a full moon. So we keep it cleansed. And then after the rainy season, it will be bottled and brought inside and kept and used. But we've always done this. And so I would tend to use rainwater, but any water will work. Water is water. Water is water. And what I would also find, I would say, if you can say, this is just a salad bowl, a little glass salad bowl. But I like it because it's clear, because part of this spell is visualizing. We want to visualize light. We want to bring light into this darkness. The darkness of the candle absorbing, but the whiteness, the clear. We want to visualize, and it talks about visualizing the white light, a white light which is streaming into the water, which this is very, very common in candle magic, this visual of this white light, or sometimes it's blue. But what we would do is, the idea is you're going to use your bowl, some kind of a bowl, and the size of the bowl does not matter, but I got one deep enough because I want to be able to put water in it to such a level that my candle is, I'm going to secure a candle and stick it in the bowl, just melt, put this in heat until the wax softens, and then it'll stick in there in the bowl. Fill the bowl up with water so that only about an inch or so remains at the top of the candle. And you can see this, if I did that in this bowl, oh my goodness, it's really, I've got how many inches? I've got a good 4 or 5 inches of candle that are not going to be underwater. So I would use a chime candle, much smaller. And then when I put that in the bowl, it's going to be, when I fill it, it's only going to leave maybe this much above the candle. So it'll do much quicker, okay? So I would put this, I would set out a sacred space, cleanse the space, put salt around if you want to, whatever's important to you, that you in a space you can represent your elements around you if you're happy with that, a representation of all of the elements, or you don't need that at all, or you can just have your favorite candle or incense, whatever you like, or nothing. It's up to you. But you get the bowl, you secure the candle somehow. You can either secure it in the bottom of the bowl, or you could put it in a little candle holder and just let it sit in the bottom of the bowl. And then you fill up the water as much as you can to a level that you can, so that only a small amount of the candle is sticking up. And then you're going to take salt. Well, first of all, you're going to take salt, and you're going to sprinkle salt all around. This is in your bowl. There we go. Sprinkle salt in a circular fashion around your candle into the water as you visualize a white light coming into the water. And as the salt hits, think about a light going into the water, reflecting down into the water. Okay. And then you're going to light your candle, and you're going to say your intention. What is it you wish to rid yourself of? What you wish to, what is your intention? What is your intention? It has to be in your words. Say it, raise your energy like I've taught you how to do, and then allow your candle in your bowl to sit undisturbed until the candle burns. And the candle is going to burn eventually down, and the water will extinguish the flame. That's why we don't have this. We could use this candle, but it would take a good while, hours, for the candle to get down to a level where it would be extinguished by the water. So something this size is so much better. So in that case, if you only have this size, maybe you have one that's just a piece of a candle. It doesn't have to be a whole candle. Maybe it's just like one that is burned for other reasons and it's just a piece left over. You could use that. Okay. Okay. So then your candle is going to go out when it's extinguished by the water, and then we're going to take the candle out of the dish, break the candle, make sure you break it, and then we're going to bury it. We're going to bury it in the ground, and we're going to take the water in the bowl and pour the water all around the buried candle. Okay. Now, that's a real fun, it's a real simple, it doesn't take much stuff. Oh, I love this spell. I'm going to put this one in my Book of Shadows. This is one, a keeper. I want to use this because I'm really sure that this is something that will work for me at the time if I ever need it. And the other thing that's good about this is it can be a non-specific spell. Non-specific meaning I don't know who is hexing me. I'm pretty sure I believe it's a hexo. I can't find any other explanation. I'm going to break this hex, clean myself, rid myself of this hex without having to know who it came from. That's really valuable, right? Okay. Now, if it is specific, if you know who is, or you think you know who it is that did it, then you want something more specific, I would say. And in that case, I'm going to give you a link here to a video that I made here on this channel. I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not sure how many years ago. Where it's called Talismans for Protection. It's quite a lengthy video, but if you look at towards the end, in the beginning I talk about talismans, and I talk about I talk about poppets. I talk about poppets. I'm going to use poppets for, etc. But then at the end, towards the end of the video, in the last part of the video, that's when I make an actual talisman for protection, where I use a mirrored brush, a fold up. It's like a fold up mirror, a mirror that is a compartment that folds, and it has a mirror in it and has a place to put something in it. Okay, some kind of a mirrored box that I put a spell on that to make that as talisman. That is for for specific purposes of protection. But we can use the same kind of idea, and we can make ourselves a mirrored box of some kind. And you can either use a box, you have some kind of a little box. A real good box for this kind of thing is something like a mint, I don't know if I have one with me. I have a couple somewhere, but I don't know where they are. Like a little Altoid box or something. It's just about this big, about that big. It's a little rectangle box with a hinged lid that opens. It had Altoid mints inside it. There's some other ones too. Did people save those? I mean, I think I have maybe pins in mine. I have one that has pins in it, straight pins for sewing. I think I have one that had. Sometimes people use them for keeping change in their purse or whatever, the baskets. But they're really good to make what we call a mirrored box, which is kind of like the idea of the trap, where we talked about making the poppet as a decoy, that we're going to attract people to somebody, to that, the intention to that, away from us. But this is a combination of that plus the mirror idea at the same time, the return to sender time. And it's really good for specifics, especially what you have to know who it is specifically. Okay. And I would somehow get some mirror, and you might be able to find mirrored tiles or sometimes you get mirrored tile that it will stick on something that you can cut. That would really be good if you could get one and cut it to the dimension of the lid. Well, here's a box. This is a big box. This wouldn't be what I'm going to talk about. But it's something that opens this way, much smaller, of course. And I would put a lid on the bottom, fill the bottom, and also a lid that filled the top, a mirror, if you could. And the idea is to fix it somehow. And the idea is, it doesn't have to completely cover it. It could just be a mirror that fits. But I think a mirror towel would work probably pretty well, because you can cut that and it'll stick. So, and you only need one. you only need one. But anyway, the idea is you want to be careful that when you do that, first of all, that you don't cut yourself, but secondly, that you don't reflect yourself in the mirror. Try not to reflect your own face. So don't look directly into the mirror. Like try to block yourself a little bit from it or look on it at an angle. Try not to look directly into it because you don't want your energy in that mirror. And the idea is you're going to have a mirrored box inside both top and bottom. And then inside the box, on top of the mirror, in between the mirrors, it's a sandwich. It's like a poppet sandwich. You're going to put some representative of the poppet of the person inside. It could be a poppet, a tagged poppet with the person's name or picture, or it doesn't have to be a poppet, but it can be something that represents a little, it could be a little, like a doll, a little poppet that represents a person, or it could be a picture of the person, a photograph. It could be just, whatever, something, hair, if you have anything personal belonging to the person, something, you would put that inside the box, okay? Okay, inside the box. It wouldn't be this wooden box, it'd be much smaller. You could use a wooden box, but I liked a little metal box, but but a wooden box would work, any little box will work. And then you take, you do the same thing, you go through your intention and make sure you raise your energy the same as we did with the candle. Raise your energy, speak your intention clearly, and name the person specifically in your intention that this is who you wish to keep them from being able to do this to you, returning everything that they have sent to you back at them, back at you, back at you. It's not coming up with a new thing. It's what have you said. So you should not say things specifically. I would not say things specifically like, I want fill in the name blank to have her account hacked and I'll lose all her money and get a nosebleed and be overcharged on automatic shipments. Because, first of all, that might not even apply to this person. And also there's the possibility that the person was not guilty. You don't have guilt. You don't have evidence that it was actually the person that did it. So by just putting specific, naming a person and saying any harm, say this in your intention, any harm or ill will sent to me by this person will be reflected back upon her. Period. Anything she sends to me that is not welcome, I am saying, no thank you, and sending it back. That's all. It's not coming up with new harm. You're not creating harm. You're not sending out the harm. You are just sending it back. Okay? That's your intention. And then you take your candle and you affix it to the top of your box. And you will light the candle and allow it to burn down. Allow it to burn down. And then I would bury this box. I would bury this box or get rid of it in some way. Okay. I personally would take it off of my property. Take it off of my property. I don't want anything with another person's negativity or intentionally on my property. That's me. That's me. Everybody does things their own way. Do what makes sense to you. You know what you should do. You know what you can feel. Have courage. Have confidence in your own abilities and your own knowledge. That whatever feels right is probably going to be right. Okay, my last point for the day, my last point on this subject, okay, is you might be cursed or you might not be cursed. You might be hexed or you might not be hexed. Try to be sure if you can. Don't just jump to the conclusion that you are, okay? If you think you really are, and you don't know specifically who it is, you can do some general things to maybe return the magic back like I just spoke of. If you know specifically who it is, you can also do something to return it back to that person. There's a couple of different ways I just spoke of. But more importantly, the most thing, if you take one thing away from this video, one thing, protection. I talk about protection on this channel all the time. I talk about it so much I make myself exhausted by it. Like I'm tired of hearing myself talk about it. Well, I'm not really, because we do it all the time. My husband and I constantly are renewing our protection. Coming up next week is Imbolc. And Imbolc is the day every year without fail, we take our wreath, our green wreath has been on our front door since before Yule. And it has been there, and on Imbolc it will be burned, and that ash will be added to the other ash that we have been burning from our fireplace, and he will put a protective border around our property and around the chicken yard. He does it without veil many times a year, but specifically on Imbolc. We do it every time on Imbolc. If there's any sachets or mojo bags anywhere that need to be replenished or redone, we do that. We have protection on our doorways. We have protection on our windows. We have protection everywhere in our house. It could be buried. It could be witches' jars. It could be a border. It could be anything. It could be herbs that are simply planted by the doors. Okay. I have given you so many different ways to protect yourself. Cascarilla powder. I've given you so many different ways. Do a search on my channel if you can, and find some videos. For today, I'm going to link to this Talismans for Protection. It's like a 40-minute video, and like I said, if you don't want to waste 40 minutes on it, at least go to the last, I don't know how many minutes of it, 20 minutes or something, and look about the how I make the little mirror protection talisman, which is really kind of cool. Or try, let me know if you try something like the little candle spell, if you have something like that. I hope this doesn't happen to you. I hope you don't get into the situation where you think that you have a hex or curse on you. It's not fun. It's just not fun to feel that way. Sometimes we're just having bad days. Sometimes it's just negative energy. How do you know? Well, one way I can tell is I can look at my tarot, right? I can look in the tarot, and I can see what kind of energies are around that I'm not paying attention to, or that I'm not noticing, or that I wasn't aware of. There's a lot of ways to answer. There's a lot of ways to find. We don't have to be in the dark. We don't have to be in the dark, and we're not victims. We don't ever have to be a victim. Please try to remember that. I know I'm trying to remember it, but I'm trying to make my husband remember it too. Okay, I hope this was a helpful video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Rebecca, and I send you blessings.